Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Spyderco CPM S90V and Fluted Carbon Fiber Native. Native 5, more specifically. First off, though, in the name of full disclosure, this guy was sent to me directly by Spyderco. That's right, they sent this to me as a review sample. I've told them, as always, I'll talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, call it a gem, call it junk, whatever. And they said, yeah, we want an honest review, so they're about to get one. But anyways, that's that, full disclosure. I've tried not to let that affect my opinion, though. Next thing, let's do a little size comparison real quick. I mean, fundamentally, it's a Spyderco Native, so what do you want? I mean, here it is next to the Delica. See, here it's slightly, well, actually, it's about the same size as the Delica. It's a little beefier vertically, which, I don't know, I feel like makes it a little bit more ergonomic over a long... I mean, this is more ergonomic than the Delica, 100%. Here it is next to the Ontario Rat number 1 and your Rat number 2, and, yeah, I think that should do it for size comparisons real quick. There is no disassembly on this guy. My reason for that, actually, I'll discuss a little bit later on. I probably could have done one if I really felt like pushing my luck a little bit, but I didn't, so I didn't. But that's why there's that. And then, but it is pretty straightforward. You'll just pop this screw, and then pry, I guess, if you want to try that. And then, finally, this is going to be a quick review because I have already reviewed the Spyderco Native 5 maybe once, maybe twice, I forget exactly how many times, but I've talked about the Native a lot. It's a great piece, and so I'm going to focus on what makes this specific edition better, worse, different, etc., than your conventional Native sort of thing. So let's talk about what's good and what's not so good relative to your normal Native 5 lightweight. So on the good side, first off, it's made in the USA. Actually, it's true, the Native 5 lightweight, so I guess I'm still going to hit on some of the high points, but that's always a nice thing, made in the golden plant. Got to support that. Next thing, it is great steel. Absolutely 100%. CPM S90V is their steel, and it's a great steel. Look, S90V is probably maybe a little tiny bit chippier than some of your other options out there, but it's absolutely, it holds an edge very, very well. I've liked it in the time I've been carrying and using this guy, so it's a solid steel. No complaints with S90V. Next thing, the action on this guy, it's a backlock, so the action is always going to be backlocky, but even relative to a lot of backlocks, it is very smooth. It's a very solid action. It works well. It's on phosphor bronze washers, which you can see maybe inside there. Yeah, you can see a little glint of phosphor bronze going on there. Look, it's a nice action. It locks up very solidly. There is zero side-to-side, up and down play. Absolutely great in the action department. Next thing, this is a very lightweight knife. If I can find my scale, I'll demonstrate that numerically. But in the moment, I'm just going to say aloud many times, super lightweight. There we go, coming in at 2.74 ounces. In many ways, it's a larger knife than you might think, and because, I mean, there's a fair amount of beef to it, but it's got the metal backspacer and everything, yet it's still coming in under an ounce an inch. Absolutely good to go in that domain. Next thing, this has a very, very, very nice fit and finish on it. The Golden Factory, you know, for a long time I've said, look, the Spyderco Taichung Factory is where to go for high-end fit and finish from Spyderco, but I feel like Golden has been nipping at their heels more and more. And especially when Golden does fancier models like this guy, Golden can do just as well. I mean, this is just gorgeous in the back here. This is just a beautifully finished and beautifully made knife, and so I love seeing that. That's absolutely great. When you got two factories competing against each other on quality, that everyone wins, let's put it that way. Then this is still a Spyderco Native. That's a silly thing to say about something called a Spyderco Native, but the thing is, the Native, I've often joked, is the very best knife I don't own. The reason I don't own one is because I have so many knives that sort of, that go on all sides of it. I mean, if I want something that's exactly 3, I'll look at the Spyderco Delica, which I like just a little bit more. If I want something a little shorter, I'll go with the Chaparral. If I want something a little beefier, I'll go with the Shaman, which is kind of a Native on steroids, etc. I mean, this is an absolutely great knife, and it's probably a better choice than the Delica for somebody who is cutting all day long, every day, because this is a little bit more ergonomic, but it's still, the Native pattern is an incredible piece. I mean, it is a very good mix of carryable, ergonomic, lightweight, durable, etc. And frankly, it's one of the better 3-inch all-around sorts of knives. If money is not a concern for you and you just want a really nice 3-inch knife, frankly, even if it is kind of a concern, because the baseline Native's like $90 these days. A little higher now with the price increases, but still. The Native is just an incredible piece, and this is a Native, so it's an incredible piece. But the thing is, what's best about this guy is that this feels incredibly high-end. So look, carbon fiber is to the point now where everybody is putting carbon fiber on things. I mean, right here we've got the ZT carbon fiber 452CF. You got the Wee Knives Eschaton carbon fiber. You've got the Spyderco shampoo here, another chunk of carbon fiber, different carbon fiber. But this has both the beauty of the carbon fiber as well as this nice fluting action, which you can really see throughout there. It's not super deep, but it gives it a really nice texture, so it's a really good knife for the Vaseline factory. But more importantly, especially with this black carbon fiber against this backspacer here, which is all metal, and this nice polished clip, this feels just very high-end. This feels like a super... I hate to overuse gentleman's knife, but it's kind of got a gentleman's knifey Native thing going on, which I find really compelling. And so to me, all of that is what's good about this guy relative to the regular one, is that it's incredibly high-end feeling, and much more so than the normal FRN fiberglass reinforced nylon style Native 5. It has all of the benefits of being a Native, making a great freaking knife, great fit and finish, very lightweight, smooth, solid action with a great steel and made in the States. On the bad side, first off, I gotta say, although the fluted carbon fiber is very nice, it's something that kind of disappears if you're looking at it from across the room. It's very angle dependent. In fact, as I kind of rotate this knife around with my lights here, you're gonna see the flutes kind of appear and disappear. And in fact, if you're looking at this kind of straight on, very often what you see is the carbon fiber up here and then sort of weirdness as the carbon fiber gets cut through in different angles. See, here the fluting comes in, but otherwise not so much. So that's, that's something that's, from across the room, this just looks like a chunk of carbon fiber. So it's something that you more appreciate tactilely than physically, and that was a little disappointing getting out of the package. I thought the fluting was going to be a lot more pronounced, visually speaking. It's very pronounced in the catalog, we'll put it that way, but still looks very attractive. Next thing, it is a very pricey knife. Now look, this is a $233 knife. That's a good amount of money to spend on a pocket knife, but the thing is, although I've got it listed in the bad because it is absolutely high, I'd love to see this coming in cheaper, it doesn't bother me all that much, which is why it's early in the bad. The reason for that is twofold. First off, I think the fluting does look great, and it's very, very well done. And the finishing on this knife are very, very good, and honestly, the price on this guy isn't that far out of line. It's about the same price as the ZT452CF, which is another very nice knife, but it's finished, very well, but maybe not as well as this guy feels. Maybe I don't know. But either way, I feel like price-wise, it is still in line with things, but more importantly, Spyderco is not keeping a useful knife behind a higher price tag. What I mean by that is, it's not the case that this is the only way to get a Spyderco Native 5 at this price point. No, not at all. Because you can get the S35 VN model for $85, or actually, for the cutlery shop, has the S90V version for $95, which is great, because you're getting quite literally the same steel here. You can get a version of this in S110V for $125. You can get it in Maximate, which is a crazy steel, for $155. The simple fact is that, yes, this is very expensive, but this is also not the Native. It's not like this is the only way to get a Native. This is kind of a more special edition-y sort of thing, so I'm a little bit more sympathetic to a higher price there. It's not keeping one of these guys out of the pocket for somebody, because you can always get one of the other ones that's a little less fancy at a much, much more reasonable price. I think the Native, especially in the S35VN, is a really, really nice deal and is a great working tool. And you can then upgrade to this guy if you'd like. Next thing on the bad side, and again, this isn't that bad, the S35VN, very often when you get these kinds of upgraded steel models, it's like, whoa, that's a big jump. Like, if you go from VG10 to ZDP, or VG10 to S30V, it's like, wow, that's a big improvement. S90V versus S35, I mean, yeah, the S90V's a little bit better at holding an edge, that kind of thing, but S35's a great steel too. So I don't feel like you need to make that jump up here, which makes this even more optional than I think it was previously. Next thing, the disassembly on this guy was non-trivial. What I mean by that is that it is actually a very easy knife to take apart because you just have these 3 screws here. But I got to the point where I had those 3 screws pulled out, and then I was trying to get this guy popped loose. And I could get the backside popped loose, but it just wasn't coming loose in here, which makes me think that something was very tightly press fit here with this backlock pin there. And so it was just like, I feel like had I sat there and very gently rocked it back and forth for 10 more minutes, I probably would have popped it loose. And in fact, if this knife were completely gunky, after a lot more use, it probably would have worn a little bit more so I could get it, pop that. But the thing is, I just kind of called it. It was like, okay, this is a knife that I'm probably going to do like a charity donation for, and I'd much rather this go out there. But that's not great. Maybe this is just exceptionally tight. There was a burr in there. It's weird to think about burr with carbon fiber, but I guess it would be. But anyways, as a result, this guy didn't come apart, and it didn't come apart, at least with my using a comfortable amount of force on it, let's put it that way. So that's something that doesn't bring me a lot of joy. Hopefully that's a one-off issue, but it didn't bring me joy. And then finally on the not-so-good side, frankly, what's bad here, is that this is poorly chamfered around the edges here, especially like in these little corner areas here, or on the back side here. This is just a lot sharper in the hand than the FRN version feels like. The FRN has some roundedness to it here, whereas this guy just has these sharp edges. And especially on the inside here, these are definitely sharp. And given that sanding carbon fiber is kind of a dangerous thing to do, you're going to want to do this with a respirator on. You're going to want to do it outside, far away from anybody who's not involved with this, because sanding carbon fiber is ugly, and you may want to do it wet, etc. I am not giving you safety advice. Talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. But still, this does need some chamfering, and I would have liked to have seen them do that. Given how much milling they're already doing to this knife, it's really a little disappointing that they didn't just hit this guy, knock these edges off a little bit. I think that is definitely an improvement they could have made that would make this a lot more comfortable in the hand than it already is. So, to me at least, those are the bad things, is that these edges are weirdly unchamfered, given the amount of other milling that they've done on this knife. The disassembly was... it probably, maybe, could be easy for somebody else. I just didn't feel right putting enough kind of torque on this guy to get this guy apart. It's not a huge step up from S35VN to move to the S90 here. It is very pricey, but you can also get these guys a lot cheaper if you're willing to forego the carbon fiber. And the aesthetic on the carbon fiber is a little angle dependent. Wow, my quick review's already 11 minutes. Yikes. But anyways, let's go into the final conclusions, which is that, honestly, this is not the Native that everybody needs. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, well, if you want a Spyderco Native, you should do this one. No, in fact, I'm going to tell you exactly the opposite. You are going to want to get another Native and fall in love with it before you even consider this. Go out and get, used one of the S35VN ones or something like that. Use it, figure out, wow, I love this knife, and I think it's really plausible that you're going to love the Native because it is a gem. But you need to fall in love with one of the other options and then go to this guy, because if you dislike any of the other Natives, you're probably going to dislike this guy as well. And the thing is, this is very pricey. I mean, there is a big jump up from $95 to 200 and whatever this was, $233. That's a big freaking jump, and it's could use that chamfer still. But ultimately, I kind of look at this as being a love letter model. What I mean by that is that other companies do this as well. Benchmade has their gold class versions. ZT has their limited editions. They've taken a knife from their normal production lineup that is just a good, solid tool, and they've made something that's kind of over the top and excellent from it. It's absolutely not required. They've not withheld anything. It's not like you can't get the Native in other steels, frankly, potentially better steels, depending on your needs. They're just offering something that is a love letter to the Spyderco Native. For people who are like, God, I love the Native. I just want to carry a Native every day, but maybe some days I want something a little fancier. Bam, they've got this option for you here. They're offering something for people who love the Native and want to take their commitment to the next level. And for that, I think this is a really excellent choice, because they've created something that is absolutely a Native lightweight here, but also feels very pride-worthy, and that's a weird thing to say. Taking pride in your gear is like, well, I paid all that money. Wow, look at me, I'm proud. But at another level, this is just a really nice piece, and Spyderco should be proud of some of this machining and milling here. So that's kind of my feeling here, is that personally for me, if I were going to go buy a Native, what I think I'd probably end up doing is getting one in like Maximet or S35 and then taking the wife out to a nice dinner. But at the same time, I'm not head over heels in love with the Native pattern. It's a great knife, but it's not the great knife I've chosen. But if you are in love with the Native, if you're already thinking, God, I love my Native so damn much, then by God, this is probably going to be the most polished gem in the Native lineup, and it's something that you will absolutely fall in love with as well. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, that this was natively understandable to you, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.